Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Peter Zender, and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog, where we aim to provide you with the latest, or dare I say, cutting-edge insights into accounting. Yes, I couldn't resist the pun, and yes, today we're diving into the FASB's new proposals on hedge accounting. Let's get after it. In late September, the FASB released a new exposure draft, and the comment window is open until just before Thanksgiving, because let's be honest, nobody wants to think about hedge accounting when they could be indulging in turkey, pumpkin pie, and listening to conspiratorial Aunt Sharon rant for the fourth year in a row about why daylight savings time shouldn't exist. On second thought, maybe hedge accounting would be a better topic of conversation. Anyway, in this exposure draft, the FASB is working to better align hedge accounting with actual risk management practices, while also simplifying the guidance to make it more efficient and cost-effective. Over the next few minutes, we're going to be covering at a very high level some of the key changes and issues highlighted in the FASB's exposure draft. This includes the shift from using the shared definition to the new similar definition for risk assessment grouping, added flexibility for non-financial forecasted transactions, and the inclusion of choose-your-rate debt instruments in the guidance. Just a heads up, though, if you are looking for the full experience, the exposure draft is 110 pages long. A perfect choice if you're searching for a riveting suggestion for your next book club read. All right, the first key issue we're going to cover, though, is the shift from shared definition to similar definition for risk exposure grouping. And now this shift reminds me of when I'm out to eat and it's time to order dessert. I never, ever want to share dessert. That limits us to just one option. I would rather spread the love and get as many desserts that sound similarly delicious as possible. Bring on the creme brulee, bring on the cheesecake, bring on the macaroons. Who's with me? Now, in previous accounting guidance, shared risk meant limited options for grouping hedge transactions. You needed transactions with the exact same index. Now, this wasn't much of a problem when LIBOR was still widely used. RIP LIBOR. But in our post-LIBOR world, while many have adopted SOFR, there's now a wider variety of indexing options, and practitioners want more flexibility in how they group transactions. The proposal now is to move from a shared to similar risk exposure grouping. With this update, hedging transactions could be grouped across different indices, locations, payment dates, reset dates, and interest rate floors, as long as you conduct a prospective assessment showing that the group transactions have similar risk exposure both at the hedge's inception and an ongoing basis. We have to keep that assessment going and making sure that the groups are similar. Our second issue that we're going to cover here involves adding more flexibility in how hedges can be designated to certain variable price components of non-financial forecasted transactions. Now, previously, the guidance required the hedge instrument to be directly tied to a contractually specified price component. For example, let's say somebody on this blog, let's not name names, has a serious Diet Coke addiction and plans to purchase 100 cases of Diet Coke in 6 months. Under the old rules, if that person wanted to hedge, they would need to execute a hedge specifically related to Diet Coke. Otherwise, they would not be able to designate that hedge for the forecasted transaction. Under the proposed changes, however, it would be allowed that hedges that are clearly and closely related could be designated to non-financial forecasted transactions. So using the soda example, if I purchased a hedge based on sugar pricing, I could argue that sugar, being a key ingredient in Diet Coke, is a clearly and closely related item, and thus I could designate that hedge to my forecasted Diet Coke purchase. The guidance offers a similar example where a purchase of 500,000 pounds of Brazilian coffee could be hedged through a forward contract with 500,000 pounds of Colombian coffee. Now, in both cases, if you make that clearly and closely related argument, you would need to support and continuously evaluate whether there's a correlated relationship in pricing between the hedge and the transaction. Let's move on to our third item here. Choose your rate debt instruments. Now, these instruments are becoming more common, and no, unfortunately, I could not find one where you can choose a 0% interest rate. Wouldn't that be nice? Instead, these allow borrowers to pick from a list of indexes and rates that are not 0%. For example, I take out a 5-year, $1 million note to finance my ongoing diet soda habit. The bank gives me the option to choose my rate, and they give me 3 different options here: a 1-month SOFR, a 3-month SOFR, or the prime rate adjusting monthly. I choose the 1-month SOFR, which resets every 30 days, but just note that I have flexibility to switch to one of those other 2 rates at a later date. Let's say I also want to hedge my position, so I execute an interest rate swap based on a 1-month SOFR with a 30-day reset, matching the note that I had executed. Now, however, after a while, time passes, I decide that I want to shift to a 3-month SOFR rate with respect to that note, with a 90-day payment cycle, because that works better for me for what my business needs are. Now, under the old rules, I would have had to terminate my hedge arrangement after choosing that different rate term, and I would not be able to use hedge accounting. I'd have to de-recognize that hedge. But under the new rule, I can perform a retrospective assessment for the old terms and a prospective assessment for the new terms. And if my 1-month SOFR swap remains highly effective during and through the transition to the 3-month SOFR rate on my note, I can continue using hedge accounting, making the process more efficient and better aligned with real-world risk management. 2 other very, very quick proposed changes to mention: the net written option test. This test determines whether a combination of options can be used as a hedging instrument. The new guidance just simplifies some of the assumptions regarding the interest rate used, as well as the timing and reset dates in that net written options test. And then foreign currency denominated debt instruments. Previously, these instruments could be dual designated, both as a hedging instrument in net investment hedges and as a hedged item in fair value hedges. Under the new proposed guidance, these instruments would be excluded, so taken out of net investment hedges, and then entities would recognize them on a fair value hedge basis only, with gains and losses measured and recognized at the spot exchange rate. Whew! All right, we covered a lot of heavy topics there, but I do hope that you enjoyed this blog entry and that it kept you on the edge of your seat. For a deeper dive, be sure to check out the FASB's exposure draft and submit your comments by November 25th. Until next time, happy auditing, everybody.